Greetings, traveler, I'm SnapJelly, and if you weren't aware of this, people who donate $10 or more on my Patreon account get as a special reward that they get to choose a topic for a future video. And this topic comes from Sunny TM, who asks if I could talk more about siege equipment of the Middle Ages or Assassin's Creed weapons, armor, fights, especially Part 1 and 2. Brotherhood surprised me. Now, I know that Connor's Hidden Blade is from Assassin's Creed 3, and that is not what you asked. But I want to say that these things, siege equipment and stuff, I will most likely talk about that in the future at some point, and this is also probably not going to be the last video that I'm ever going to do about Assassin's Creed. So since these topics are not very specific, I thought, well, there's going to be more videos in the future anyway of me talking about these things. And in my previous video that I did about Assassin's Creed, about the normal Hidden Blade, a lot of people asked me if I could talk about Connor's one specifically. So I figured I would mix the two together. Sonny, I hope you're not disappointed. Like I said, time will make it up to you. I will talk about those things in the future. But for now, I figured I would talk about Connor's Hidden Blade first. Now, Connor's Hidden Blade is not better than Ezio's or Altair's. In fact, it is one of those things. Personally, I don't really like it very much. I like the concept of it, like from a video game perspective, but if you look at the details, it's not that good. And a lot of people say that it's in many ways better because you use it more like an ordinary dagger. Which, I suppose that is true, but the thing is, if you look at the details and how the thing would actually function and work, then it would really not be that good, and I think it would be worse than a normal Hidden Blade. Now, first things first is how to draw the thing. If you look at this picture that I found online, it's supposedly as the Hidden Blade comes out, let me grab a dagger. Daisy. As the Hidden Blade comes out, whoosh, you grab it with 2 fingers off to the side here, like that, right, and then you push it and it pivots and tilts, and then when it's like this, you grab it completely. Alright, that is great and all, but, you know, consider having to do that fast. Right? It's not impossible, I will say that. It is, in theory, and probably also in practice, possible to practice in such a way that you can do that consistently and with fair accuracy and speed. However, is it really worth it? Is it really worth practicing for what would be years in order to get that movement right? I think it isn't, because this is one of the criticisms that I also had with the normal Hidden Blade, which a lot of people say that of course the Hidden Blade is about being stealthy, not about it being actually deadly or effective. It's just, you know, having a hidden blade, a blade that nobody knows that you have it. Well, I argued that it's not that difficult to hide an ordinary dagger, and to be able to draw that in such a way that people can't see it and stab your opponent normally. Which I still stand by that point, but I understand that people might think that a Hidden Blade that shoots out of your wrist would be somehow less suspicious or less obvious. I don't think, though, that if you have a Hidden Blade that you have to pivot in your hand and then use just simply like a normal dagger is less suspicious than just having a normal dagger, drawing that with the point down and stabbing somebody normally. There's no way that this is less suspicious, so it loses that point completely. Another thing that I would say is that it is not as useful as a normal dagger simply in let's say, day-to-day life. Because arguably, if you have a tool that you could use like a normal dagger, I would say use a normal dagger. Because daggers are useful tools. Just simply in life, having a knife or a dagger with you helps. They're useful. You can use them for all kinds of things. But Connor's Hidden Blade only, as far as I know, pivots down. There's no way for you to hold it point up, which is going to be quite bothersome if you want to do anything with it that is not killing. I mean, you could also argue that, especially considering the time period, that holding your dagger point up would be more useful in various ways, but I'm not even talking about that right now. Just talking ordinary stuff like fucking cooking or something. You know, you can use the dagger for all kinds of things. But Connor can't, because his dagger only does this. So that is gonna be a bother as well. Just it's not really criticism on the design itself, I would say, but you know, it's just useful to have a dagger with you. And many people at this time, actually probably everybody at this time, had a dagger with them because they are useful. Even if you didn't use them in battle, you would have a dagger or a knife with you. And Connor, because of his hidden blade and its weird only downwards pivoting tendencies, would probably carry his hidden blade and a normal dagger as well for the practicality of the normal dagger. So that doesn't really make sense. Now, excluding the things that you can't do with it, like holding it point up, if you talk about the things that it can do, like holding it like this, it is still going to be limited. Because, of course, the hidden blade is connected through a hinge with your vambrace, which would limit the mobility. And the thing only pivots down, so you're pretty much limited to doing these movements, and these movements are not going to be possible. The delicate wrist movements that are quite important in just fighting in general and combat in general, you're not going to be able to twist your dagger around because it's stuck. Now, you might say that technically you could create a construction that allows the dagger to pivot sideways, because for the sake of this video, we're just going to have to assume that whatever mechanism is being used, that it works, right? Yes, technically you could do that, but there's no way that if your dagger is stuck to your vambrace that it's gonna have no mobility issues. It is always gonna be less mobile than just having a normal dagger that is not connected to anything. So you lose a lot of the delicate wrist movements that are pretty much essential for combat. And another thing, it is arguably a bit of a doom scenario, I suppose, but they're good in battle is you know, random. You have to improvise a lot, and if there's, for whatever reason, a scenario where you have to drop your dagger, where that would be beneficial, you can't do that because it's stuck to you. You know, this is kind of a what if, maybe, but, you know, it's just something that I keep in mind. There is a possibility that you would just have to fucking drop it and bolt it in order to save your life, or in order to perhaps you need your right arm for a grapple or something, and if you have the dagger there, well, yeah, grappling, you can also grapple with a dagger, but there's just lots of variables, and if whatever weapon you have is stuck to you, then you can never let it go. So, just keeping that in mind. Also, the hinge would be a weak spot in the material. Well, I wouldn't say that having a hinge there would completely leave the thing useless. I don't think it would break that easily, but it would definitely absorb a lot of stress. Because, well, the stress has nowhere else to go. So if you use a downwards motion, perhaps there is a way that no force is applied to the material and everything is absorbed by your hand. Personally, I doubt it. Right? If it is connected to a hinge and to your wrist, then any downwards motion that you're gonna do, which is pretty much the only thing that you can do, or hook with it in any case, this pressure, this is just gonna push against the hinge, which is and the hinge is a weak point in the material, right? And if you apply pressure the wrong way, which is pretty likely to happen in battle at some point if it twists this way or that way, then you're gonna apply pressure to the hinge in a way that it's not made to do, right? And battle is quite intense. You know, you can't control everything. It's not unlikely for weapons to break. So if you put a hinge right in the spot where it would potentially absorb all of the force, that is just asking for trouble. Also, one of the main points that I had against the ordinary hidden blade was that it would come loose and eventually will start to wiggle. Which in this case it is probably even worse, because like I said, this hinge and this motion is just going to create a giant lever. It's going to apply pressure to the vambrace and push it this way, which over time it will just get loose. There's nothing to do about that. It will get loose and you will have to re-strap your vambrace over and over and over again. Also, there are slight things that would make it arguably less effective than the original one, considering the original one would work. It would be slightly slower to draw. It will be slightly slower to hide again, to push back, because the original hidden blade was just swoop and it was in. And this one you have to pivot first and then arguably it would slide in or get pulled in, or however that works. I'm also not sure if Connor can use his hidden blade normally as well, if he can just stab people like this. If he has to grab it like that all the time for every assassination, then that would again decrease the time. And being able to use that delicate movement that I talked about in the beginning, whilst under stress, has just a high likelihood of failing, even if you've practiced it for years and years and years. But if you're running, sprinting, fighting, whatever, you have to draw your hidden blade, swoosh, flip, grab. yeah, there's quite a high chance that that is not gonna work properly and that you're gonna fail. Right, in which case it's not the end of the world, but you would kind of have your hidden blade that's stuck here somehow because fuck, I can't get, wait a second, okay, okay, there we go. You know, so you would in the end be left fighting with just one hand, and yeah, that wouldn't really be beneficial. Also, something that I don't quite understand is why is Connor the only one that has this hidden blade? Maybe I forgot the lore. I can't even remember if I ever knew the lore of this story. But I feel like this design, like I said, is not per se an improvement. And if it was intended to be an improvement, then why don't other people have this design? Get what I mean? It is. I mean, it's different, arguably, in the world, I suppose, of the video game. Considering all of these things don't count, and the things that I said about the original Hidden Blade don't count either, then it's not per se better or worse, it is just, you know, another thing. I just don't quite understand why they chose to go for this another thing. Because like I said, just in terms of practicality, Connor would probably still need a normal dagger. And like Ezio, who did have an altar here as well, who did have a Hidden Blade, they also carried a normal dagger, right? So, Connor, I believe, does not carry a normal dagger. I could be wrong about that. I can't remember. In any case, this Hidden Blade is not an improvement in my mind. I think I have covered everything. I don't know if I forgot something. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But in any case, I think I made most of the points. So, if you want to choose a topic for a future video, then you can. Link to my Patreon is in the description below. And Sunny, again, I hope you're not disappointed by this video. I will talk about the other things in the future as well. So don't worry about that. And if you want to follow me on social media, then you can. Links are in the description below. And thank you for joining my quest, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye, guys.